In the last video we went into the origins of Nimrod following up to the Greek gods, following the corruption of the serpent out of Eden. The serpent continues along with Apollo following the Roman gods all the way to the Roman Catholic Church.
Chapter 7. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream, and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea. And 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And behold another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns.
What is the origin of Sol Invictus? Why does it fall on December 25th, a day many of us associate with Christmas, a Christian holiday celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ? To answer this question, first we have to explore why Jesus' birthday is even celebrated on December 25th, when biblical scholars predominantly point to spring as the most likely time of nativity. For hundreds of years after Jesus' supposed death and rebirth, Christians didn't celebrate birthdays, not even for the Son of God, because birthday celebrations were considered pagan in practice. Even today, the Orthodox Church places its focus on Easter over Christmas. Instead, January 6th was one of the principal celebrations in Christianity known as Epiphany. It commemorated the manifestation of Christ's divinity. It wasn't until the 330s AD that a feast day celebrating the birth of Christ appeared in Rome, springing from decades of doctrinal disputes centering around Jesus' divinity and humanity. A celebration of the birth of the human Jesus emphasized both the dichotomy between the human and divine forms of Christ and the importance of Jesus' physical birth. Without context, the ecumenical workings of the early Christian church seem unrelated to Sol Invictus. However, it tells the story of the persecuted becoming the persecutors, and how a once widely celebrated pagan holiday fell into obscurity. By the middle of the 2nd century, Christianity had grown from a loose movement into a juvenile powerhouse, fueled by the introduction of the New Testament. The 3rd century ushered in an age of persecution, as Roman bureaucrats tried and failed to quell the explosive movement. By the turn of the 4th century, Christianity was the state religion, and Emperor Constantine the Great became the first major Christian supporter to rule Rome. He unified the Roman Empire during his 30-year rule, and by the late 300s, public worship of other religions was illegal. It is widely accepted that Christmas was intentionally placed over the winter solstice, a pagan feast day celebrating the unconquerable sun, which fell on December 25th. This move by church politics not only allowed them to replace a perceived threat with a new holiday honoring Jesus, it also allowed them to appropriate the iconography, and the sun became a common metaphor for Christ in early Christian literature. This was likely intended to encourage conversion to Christianity. There is some debate regarding the importance of December 25th for pagans in Rome around this time. There are limited historical references to a celebration of Sol Invictus in December, though countless references exist for the winter solstice. As a result, it continues to be debated whether the date was commonly considered feast day for the sun god, whose major feast is generally recorded as falling from October 19th to the 22nd. Proponents suggest that Roman Emperor Aurelian proclaimed the holiday of Sol Invictus in the late 200s, catapulting the cult of the sun into the Roman mainstream. Dissidents point to a distinction between the sun god Sol Invictus and the cosmic body of the sun, the latter of which would justify homage during the shortest day of the year, heralding the return of light and warmth. Additional theories, such as historians hybridizing Saturnalia, which took place in mid-December with the winter solstice, are also hotly debated. Regardless of the still obscured truth, there is a narrative of self-empowerment in reappropriating a celebration, particularly one stolen by oppression from a dominant theological power. Even with Christianity's recent and painful past, painted red with the blood of martyrs, they quickly turned their newfound freedom into violence and tyranny, a pattern that would escalate for centuries to come and cost countless lives. For Satanists, this highlights the vital role of the other in the face of uneven power. With this in mind, there are many ways for Satanists to celebrate Sol Invictus. The return of light is a frequent motif in winter solstice celebrations, which can symbolize knowledge and rationality, as well as bounty and health. Another common theme is generosity, reminding us that during the longest, darkest of days, compassion and empathy are what carry a community through.
Constantine I was born Flavius Valerius Aurelius Constantinus somewhere around the year 272. Constantine was born in the Moesian city of Nassius to Flavius Constantius, Illyrian native and officer in the Roman army. His mother Helena was a native of Bithynian Drepanum. Constantius was appointed governor of Dalmatia under the emperor Diocletian, who divided his empire into a tetrarchy in 293, appointing junior emperors Constantius and Galerius. Constantius' rule in the east as Caesar was advantageous for the young Constantine, who was the heir to his father's throne and privileged with the best education. He benefited from the open and socially mobile culture of Nicomedia, where he candidly intermingled with Christians and pagans. Constantine became proficient in Latin literature, Greek, and philosophy. He may have seen and been influenced by the lectures of Lactantius, a Christian scholar of Latin. As a prominent participant in the court, Constantine led a political life and witnessed Diocletian's persecutions of Christians. Together with Galerius and Diocletian began a universal persecution and ordered the Christian church at Nicomedia be destroyed, its scriptures set to flame, and all of its treasures collected. This persecution continued for 8 years. Maximian and Constantius did not enforce the harsher stipulations set by Diocletian. After Constantius' death, Constantine was proclaimed Augustus in the west. This was against the plans of Diocletian and Galerius, who ruled in the east. Constantine sent a message to Galerius with a portrait of himself wearing the outfit of Augustus and the imperial wreath. He claimed that his army had forced him to take up the position, and although Galerius was greatly upset over this, Constantine's popular support hindered Galerius from opposing it. Instead of declaring war, Galerius sent him a purple vestment and granted him the title of Caesar. Constantine continued to rise in power as he strengthened his army and his popularity with his people by touring his lands and promoting a free religious culture. He commanded one of the largest armies of the time and was eventually promoted to emperor in the east. When Galerius and Maxentius went to battle over Maxentius' jealousy of Constantine's promotion, Constantine remained neutral and immersed himself in other activities to further promote his reputation. He toured his lands and supported the economy and arts. He gained more recognition and respect for staying out of civil war and built a stable power base in his territory. Around 310, Galerius had become ill and rescinded his policies of Christian persecution. He died soon after, leaving the tetrarchy weakened. Maxentius' power was also weakening as his support dissolved into protest and he resumed taxation. The death of Galerius left two forces, Constantine with Licinius and Maximin with Maxentius. The forces went to battle over who would take control of the empire. Maxentius, expecting an attack from Constantine, gathered his army of approximately 100,000 soldiers. Constantine crossed the Alps with only a quarter of his army, which totaled less than 40,000 men, to battle Maxentius. Constantine marched his army through several villages until he finally met Maxentius in Rome. At the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, Constantine defeated Maxentius to become the ruler of the entire Western Roman Empire. In Lactantius' written account, Constantine was told by God to paint the labarum on his soldiers' shields. In Eusebius' account, which is held in less regard than Lactantius, Constantine had a vision, while praying, of a sign that appeared in the heavens. Regardless of the source of the idea, Constantine's army marched into battle with the sign on their shields and emerged victorious despite their lesser numbers. Many critics believe that this was the beginning of Constantine strengthening his faith in the Christian God and his conversion to Christianity. Constantine continued to expand his power over the rest of the collapsing tetrarchy. He and his ally Licinius met in 313 to declare the Edict of Milan, which granted full tolerance to all religions in the empire, with special benefits for the Christians. The edict restored to the Christians all the property seized during Diocletian's persecutions and repudiated religious coercion. Licinius eventually defeated Maximinus and became the emperor over the eastern half of the Roman Empire. Later, Licinius went back on his word and the Edict of Milan and began another persecution of the Christians that led to a great civil war in 324. Licinius represented the ancient pagan faith, and Constantine warred under the Christian labarum. Constantine emerged victorious and had Licinius executed for plotting against him. Constantine was now the sole emperor over the entire Roman Empire. He began his reign with rebuilding the city of Byzantium and renaming it Nova Roma, or New Rome. He protected his new city with the alleged true cross and the rod of Moses and other holy relics. He replaced figures of the old pagan gods and often assimilated them into Christian symbolism. The Roman Catholic Church's high regard and hailing of the Virgin Mary as a saint is comparative to the Greek goddess Aphrodite and her son Eros. Another example includes the comparison of Christ's ascension to hell to defeat the devil, to Hercules' descent to Hades to battle the Cerberus demon and wrestle it into submission. Constantine introduced a strong Christian religious policy throughout his empire. He announced the toleration of Christianity, removed penalties for professing Christian beliefs, and returned church property. It wasn't until after he was 40 years of age that Constantine declared himself a Christian. Constantine passed laws that enforced his Christian reforms, such as the abolishment of crucifixion. He declared Sunday as the official day of rest, and gave prisoners the right to go outdoors. Constantine also repaired many Christian churches, and while he never outlawed paganism, he forbade repair of their temples. Constantine's rule established a precedent for the role of the emperor in the Christian church. While emperors were responsible for the spiritual guidance of their people, they did not decide religious doctrine. The emperor enforced the doctrine that was decided by the bishops, rooted out heresy, and upheld ecclesiastical unity among their subjects. The first ecumenical council, known as the Council of Nicaea, resulted in the creation of the first uniform Christian doctrine. Constantine fervently sought out uniformity among Christians to unify the beliefs for the whole of Christendom. This was an important act for the emperor that won him much popularity and reverence among his empire. At the time, there was discord over the relationship of Jesus Christ to God the Father. The Arians took the stance that Christ was of a similar substance to God the Father, but that he was not filioque, or the same as the Father. The First Council of Nicaea banned the Arian belief and opened the door to additional councils that indoctrinated other canons. Under Constantine's rule, the council also decided to celebrate the resurrection of Christ on the first Sunday after the full moon following the vernal equinox. The Council of Nicaea was a historically significant event in the history of Christendom, as it was the first effort to attain consensus and the creation of the Nicene Creed. Constantine's presiding over the council also set a standard of imperial control for subsequent councils to create further creeds and canons. During Constantine's reign, adoptionism was also banned by the Roman Catholic Church, and it was agreed upon that Christ was the Holy Son of God from birth. Although not much is for certain, it is speculated that Constantine's mother, Flavia Lulia Helena Augusta, was the daughter of an innkeeper. Many critics believe that she was a major source of influence of the Christian religion upon her son in his youth. She is credited with finding Christian relics and the true cross. It is said that Helena was placed on a mission to gather Christian relics by her son, and she traveled from Rome to Jerusalem to the site of Jesus' tomb near Calvary. She is said to have also recovered the nails of Christ's crucifixion and placed one in the helmet and on the bridle of Constantine's horse in order to aid him with their power. Constantine set out building a church for the apostles in Constantinople, which included a final resting place for himself. One Easter, Constantine became ill and left Constantinople for his mother's city of Helenopolis. While in church praying, he realized he was dying and began to study catechumen to become baptized. He decided to return to Constantinople, but only made his journey as far as Nicomedia, where he summoned the bishops and asked to be baptized in the river Jordan, where it is written, Christ was also baptized. Constantine died soon after. His body was transferred to Constantinople and buried in the Church of the Holy Apostles. Constantine was a powerful and politically savvy leader throughout his life. Born into privilege, he was able to learn and study with many cultures and perspectives. His knowledge and confidence gained him widespread popularity as he created an empire that was tolerant and free for both paganism and Christianity. Using his prowess, Constantine had an army and a nation that both loved and supported him, and he led a widely successful campaign, defeating his enemies in many battles until he became sole emperor of the Roman Empire. Because of his aptitude for gaining popularity through political strategy, it is speculative whether he actually ever fully embraced the Christian religion. There is no argument, however, against his incredible achievements that made Christianity the religion it is today. Without Constantine and his motivation to promote the religion, we would not live in the world we know today.